Hi, this is Scott from SaaS Startup Stories, and today's show is sponsored by ActiveCampaign, the world's #1 email marketing and automation platform, and the system that I use to run my entire business. If you'd like to get started with ActiveCampaign and take advantage of the best current promo that they're running, then go over to scottdudley.com/AC and fill out the form. And today, my special guest is Mark Evans. Mark is based in Toronto, Canada, and is the principal at Marketing Spark. Mark is a fractional CMO for B2B SaaS companies, helping them accelerate growth with rock-solid marketing foundations, underpinned by brand strategy, positioning, messaging, and go-to-market plans. Mark, you ready to rock and roll?
I am. Thanks for the intro. A little long, but it is what it is when you're trying to market yourself.
Exactly. Sounds good. All right, so let's start off with your background and what initially got you interested in helping SaaS companies with their marketing.
Well, by training, I'm a journalist. I spent about 15 years as a newspaper journalist covering technology for two of Canada's national newspapers. And along the way, I got seduced by a fellow entrepreneur to jump into the startup arena. And in Canada, we're a small country, 35 million people, and we don't have a lot of B2C companies here. I mean, Shopify is probably the best known company, but we have a lot of B2B companies. For many, many years, the tech scene was dominated by US companies like IBM, and the startup scene started to emerge, and B2B became the hottest market in Canada. And I just followed the crowd and started doing marketing for B2B companies.
Nice. All right, so I noticed that you've co-founded an unsuccessful startup and you've also worked for several startups. I'm just wondering, or a bit curious, what are some of the lessons you've learned from that experience?
Well, the biggest lesson I've learned from co-founding a startup is that timing is everything. When I launched my company with a partner, it was at the tail end of the .com boom. So we're talking like early 2000, and we thought we were going to become millionaires. The market was red hot, and we had a product that was around natural language navigation, so making it easy for people to find things or buy things online. And it was a great idea, but two things happened. One is that the .com boom went bust, which was terrible timing, and that our idea was too early. People were just starting to use the internet for research and for content. And we were trying to get people to buy things, and the market just wasn't there yet. And we didn't have a business model. So I would say that timing is everything. And the other thing that I learned is that, we look at successful entrepreneurs and we see them as rock stars. They're these amazingly smart people with these awesome products. And the reality is they got lucky. A lot of them just got lucky because they're in the right place at the right time. So if you're an entrepreneur, sometimes you're super smart. You may be an Elon Musk, although a bit crazy. And sometimes you just get lucky because your product just resonates for whatever reason. And that's the thing with startups, is there's no rhyme or reason sometimes. Sometimes you hit it, and sometimes you have a great idea and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, interesting. All right, so tell me a bit about Marketing Spark and your 3-part methodology and how it works.
Marketing Spark is a company that I've been running since 2008. And as you mentioned, almost from the get-go, I've been focused on helping B2B SaaS companies. And the reason that I'm focused on that niche is I believe that the riches are in the niches, as they say. And that I want to position myself as being the option for entrepreneurs and CEOs who have product market fit, they have sales, they've got a great product and they've got customers, but they're doing little or no marketing. So most of my clients are less than $5 million in sales. They want to do marketing, but they're not sure what to do, or they've done some marketing and it's really performed badly for them. So they feel burnt, and they need, if I had to use sort of a user-friendly term, they need a babysitter or a guide to help them move forward. And so where I start with every single client is around positioning and messaging. And you could say that they're the 1-2 punch when it comes to developing a customer story, because I fundamentally believe that if people don't know what you do, who you serve, why what you do matters, and how you're different, better, or unique, then your marketing is not going to gain any traction. You're going to get lost in the crowd. So if you have a compelling customer story, it really sets the stage for whatever marketing channels that you're going to pick. So that's the second stage. Once you have your story, then let's figure out where to tell it and who to tell it to. And then the third part is tactical oversight, is making sure that you're following best practices and you're doing the right things at the right time for the right people.
Okay. So what's sort of the difference between a SaaS company hiring their own CMO and or as an employee or hiring you, if you know what I mean?
That's a good question, because I think my target audience, if you've got $5 million in sales or less, you've got your CEO, who's usually the founder or the co-founder. The next person they hire is the VP of sales. And then they'll hire some salespeople or BDRs. And marketing at that stage for many companies is not a priority. They just don't see it as a place where they want to spend money. They want to pour money into sales activities or advertising, especially if you're a B2B SaaS company, going to conferences. But eventually, they have to spend money on marketing. And many of them see it as a necessary evil. So what they're trying to do is they try to do it cheap and cheerful. You know, they hire contractors or freelancers, or maybe they'll hire an agency. And at some point in time, they feel like they need a marketing leader. But here's the big but. If you want to hire a VP marketing, it's going to cost you $125, $150, $175, and that person's going to want stock options and all kinds of perks. So it's an expensive hire. And if you want to fire them, then that gets expensive too. So the reason they would hire a fractional CMO is it gives them financial flexibility. So if they hire you and they make a mistake, then they can sever the contract. The other thing about hiring a fractional CMO is that you can hire against a specific gap or need. So for example, if you're early in your marketing and you decide that the way that you want to move forward is you want to leverage content marketing, and that's going to be your key go-to-market vehicle, then you want to hire a fractional CMO who's got extensive content marketing experience. You don't care if they have SEM experience or email marketing, but because you're not interested in that right now. But for the time being, whether it's 3 months or 6 months or a year, if content is going to be your big thing, then hire a marketing leader who's got extensive experience in that. So it gives you the flexibility to get the person who has the right skills for the right amount of time. And it's a really good model for many, many companies.
Interesting. So is this fractional CMO idea, is that common, or is you one of the few?
It's gaining traction. To be honest with you, I thought that after COVID started and we all started working remote, that the fractional model for marketing leaders would be red hot, but it hasn't really evolved the way that I thought. It's sort of good, but really not excellent. And the reason that I'm surprised is that the fractional CFO model, Chief Financial Officer, has been red hot for many, many years. And I just thought fractional would just be the next big thing for many companies: fractional sales, fractional customer service, fractional, chief revenue officers. But I think the biggest problem, if I had to be honest, is there's an education issue right now. Is that if I said to you, I'm a fractional CMO, the obvious question you ask me that is, so what does a fractional CMO do? And in some regards, the easy answer is, well, they're a part-time CMO. But it's nuanced, because a fractional CMO can provide different skill sets at different times in different ways. And I think the model resonates because it allows you to maybe hire a bunch of marketing tacticians who are going to be very, very busy getting marketing done. And you don't need a full-time leader. You don't have to pay for a full-time leader. And even if you hire a full-time leader, you may not totally leverage them and get value from them. So I think it's a slow burn right now. If I had to sort of characterize it, is that it is growing. More people are deciding to call themselves fractional CMOs. And I think the model will start to gain more and more momentum.
Interesting. Okay. So are you just working with companies from the US and Canada, or is it more of a global sort of thing?
That's the interesting thing. So I'm based in Toronto, Canada. We have a very vibrant startup scene here, and I was super excited about working with Canadian companies. But to be honest with you, the Canadian approach to marketing, at least within the B2B SaaS marketplace, is they're not as committed as other places in the world. Americans love marketing, especially B2B SaaS companies. They really invest heavily in marketing. They put a lot of resources behind it because they see it as a way to differentiate themselves and outflank the competition. In Canada, not so much. I'm not sure what the scene is like in Australia where you live, but we seem to take a very sort of muted approach to marketing. And it was very frustrating to me because I was desperate to work with Canadian startups because they're, it's exciting to work with entrepreneurs in your backyard. When COVID started, and we stopped going to events, I embraced LinkedIn in a big way. And as a writer, writing posts on a regular basis, almost every day, was very natural to me. And as I flexed my writing muscles, and it's fun to write on LinkedIn, I enjoy writing, I started getting more and more attention outside of Canada. So I would say that 90% of my customers are in the US. I've had customers in Britain, I've had customers in Europe, and it's really interesting because it's been a game changer for my business. And I think I don't think I'm necessarily unique in that sense. I think the whole globalization of talent has really started to emerge to the forefront, is that you can get good talent anywhere in the world. So you don't necessarily need to work with somebody in the same city or the same country. And the other thing is you don't necessarily need to see anybody. Like I have clients that I've never met, and I'll likely never meet them, but I feel like I know them because we spend a lot of time on Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So you've already spoken about writing on LinkedIn. Is there any other sort of primary lead generation methods that you use for Marketing Spark, or is that the main one?
LinkedIn is by far the main lead engine for me. I mean, it's a global audience. A lot of people look at LinkedIn and go, well, there's so much content being written. It's late in the game, and it's not. There's a lot of runway left on LinkedIn. And, LinkedIn is a multifaceted beast. So yes, you have to write content. That's a given. But if you really want to leverage the platform, you've also got to comment on other people's posts, because that drives a lot of engagement and it raises your profile. You want to have conversations. Well, you want to connect, right? So you want to connect with a lot of people who are like-minded and in the same industry for you. And then you want to leverage those connections to have conversations. And I think if I've could pinpoint why I've been successful on LinkedIn is that I've reached out to people and said, hey, I really like what you're doing. I really like that post you wrote. It would be great to jump on a call and compare notes. And the magic is that since we're all working from home, or a lot of us are working from home, we're lonely. Like we want to talk to people, right? So if someone reaches out to you and says, hey, do you want to have a conversation for 20 minutes? The vast majority of people say, yeah, I'd love to do that. And when you do that, it establishes relationships. It sparks opportunities. It's a great way to learn. So I've really leveraged LinkedIn. I have a newsletter that I write 3 times a week, little short snippets of sort of marketing opinion and marketing advice for a mailing list. And the other platform that I've started to play around with, and I probably need to do a better job of, is TikTok. I'm convinced that TikTok is going to be the next big platform for B2B marketers. The demographics of TikTok are changing. So it's easy to think that TikTok is about, dance videos and all kinds of, prank videos and that kind of thing. But there's an increase. The people are getting older. Like people who are spending time, obviously older people are spending time being entertained, but they're also looking to be educated. And you have to dip your toes in TikTok, because if you're not there, if you're not learning, if you're not, seeing what's going on, then you may miss out on a big opportunity. And I think a lot of people made the same mistake with LinkedIn. They dismissed LinkedIn as the place where HR people operate, and they just sort of, they brushed it off, and then they learned that was a mistake. And I think a lot of people have recognized that TikTok, has the same amount of potential, but you have to get in early. And if anyone is considering, TikTok, I would just make some short videos. A lot of them don't have to be perfect. Just get on the platform and start learning and start doing.
What about the YouTube Shorts? Do you think that they're comparable to TikTok, or what's better?
Well, the problem with YouTube Shorts is they just don't have the brand affinity that TikTok has attracted. Right. I mean, TikTok is the place to make short videos, and a Me Too product like YouTube will gain momentum in time, but it just doesn't have a lot of buzz right now. But YouTube, like Facebook copies and Instagram copy everything everybody else does. YouTube had no choice but to embrace shorts. But the reality is that YouTube is the second biggest search engine platform in the world. And it's only a matter of time before marketers realize, if I match the search engine power with short videos, I'm going to get a win. So I would say the other thing to think about is, while everyone's focused on TikTok, it seems counterintuitive advice, right? But the other thing is to really establish a really great presence using YouTube Shorts, so that you're going against the grain a little bit. But that's the game of marketing. Like, marketing is, sometimes you take risks, sometimes you do things like you zig when other people zag. You go against the grain, and you have to experiment and see what works. So I would experiment on TikTok. I would experiment on YouTube Shorts, and see what works for you and your audience.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so here's a question I'm looking forward to. Why do you think most B2B SaaS lead problems are actually story problems?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, actually, because you fed me that question. I fed you that question. So
you did,
I think I did feed you that question. So here's the reality of B2B. Every single B2B SaaS market is that there are dozens, if not hundreds, of companies that offer the exact same services. No one is, earth-shatteringly unique or novel. They all walk the walk and talk the talk, the same features, the same benefits, pretty much the same prices. And so how do you differentiate yourself? How do you stand out from the crowd? How do you not get lost sort of in the whole, digital, crowd out there? And the way to do it is you have a better customer story, a more compelling, differentiated, more interesting customer story. And as I alluded to earlier, the 1-2 punch for me is positioning, which answers the 4 questions. What do you do? Who do you serve? What value do you deliver, and how are you better, unique, or different? And from the outside looking in, they're very simple questions, very straightforward, because everyone pretty much can answer them. But you have to be extremely concise, extremely clear, and at the same time, you have to be compelling. You have to make people curious or interested in what you do, and it takes a lot of work to get that package together. And if you can do it, then you have coherency and consistency. And so everyone within your organization, everyone you deal with is reading off the same page in the proverbial hymn book. There's no variations on the truth. You've got this message, you go to market with it, and it becomes very powerful when you repeat it over and over again. And it's a story that is different from everybody else out there. So that's why I think customer stories matter. So you take your positioning, and then you leverage your messaging. So messaging can be the website copy, or your demos, or your sales decks, or your infographics, or whatever marketing you're going to do. And then you essentially apply that customer story to the channels that matter to you, all the marketing channels. And so it's positioning, messaging, the channels that work, and the story that you tell in those channels. And if you can have a really coordinated plan of attack, then you are going to do marketing that makes a difference and makes an impact. You're going to do marketing that enlightens, that motivates people, that inspires them, and that makes you stand out from every single other company. It makes you the obvious choice. And that's the goal when it comes to positioning, is you want to be the choice for the people that matter to you. And so, whether you gravitate to MailChimp or any other email marketing platform, you feel an affinity to them for some reason, because they talk to you and they position themselves as being the obvious choice. Why would I work with any other company or purchase any other SaaS company if I can do business with you?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so what are your best tips on using email marketing to grow SaaS companies?
Well, tip number 1 is to use email marketing to grow your SaaS company, because I think one of the things that people have found out with LinkedIn or Instagram or any other social media platforms, it's rented real estate. Is that if for any reason that they want to kick you off the platform, and LinkedIn, this pops up on LinkedIn time and time again, is that you can get kicked off and you're basically leasing somebody else's real estate. So as a marketer, I want to own my email list. And I want the ability to talk to the customers that matter to me on a regular basis. And I want to control that experience. And I don't want to depend on anybody else. I want to own that relationship. So that's my biggest rule when it comes to email marketing, why anybody should leverage it and build an email marketing list. And the second one is to use email to educate, engage, enlighten, not to sell. Like, we shouldn't be in the business of selling, because we're like, too many marketers are trying to use email to sell all the time, and the offers keep on coming. Look at Black Friday, for example, and the tsunami of buy us now. We're offering a huge discount. After a while, you kind of go numb because it's like, oh, great, I got another email from this company, and they're just trying to, as opposed to positioning yourself through email as this valuable resource, this company that cares about you and your experiences and how they're going to make your life professionally or personally better. And that's good in email marketing. I consider email marketing to be a relationship building machine, not a sales machine. And that would be probably the second big piece of advice that I would offer marketers when it comes to email marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what are the biggest challenges that new founders are experiencing right now with growing SaaS companies, in your opinion?
Well, the biggest challenge facing any SaaS leader is leads. We've gone through a period of time, the last 2 years, when the rising tide lifted all ships, and SaaS sales was pretty good. I mean, there was this huge digital transformation going on, and everyone wanted to migrate to SaaS and work remotely, and sales were good across the board. Now, some companies did better than others, and I think what we discovered in the last 6 months is that companies whose marketing was good but not great are getting exposed. Their warts are starting to show, and that even though they had growth before, that growth has stopped. So I said the number one challenge for a lot of companies is leads. Now, there's two ways you can go. You can just pound away and hope that if you do enough things in the right places or do volume-based marketing, your leads are going to come. I think that's the wrong approach. I think that SaaS leaders need to be very strategic right now and look at, okay, is our product meeting a specific need? Is our marketing resonating and making an impact? Are we using the right channels right now? Are we using channels that just aren't driving ROI? And it's almost like you have to take a step back and take a breath, which is hard to do right now when business goes soft, as opposed to simply trying to, ram your way forward. So I think the challenge is that you need to have some perspective, as opposed to simply thinking, if I do more, then things will get better. So that's the big challenge for a lot of B2B SaaS CEOs. And the other one is that, they've got to figure out, maybe right size their businesses right now. When money was easy, when VC was flowing into companies, a lot of companies got loose with their spending. Their budgets got very, very big, very, very fast. And I think a lot of companies need to right size, not downsize, but right size, so that their organization is structured properly for what we're dealing with right now.
Interesting. Okay. What's your favorite business book?
I've got a couple. One of them is Red Dog. It's the story of Nike by Phil Knight. And it's a great story of entrepreneurial persistence and the idea that he had a great idea and there was a series of setbacks, and he managed through a lot of hard work and luck and just being in the right place at the right time to be ultimately successful. There's another book that I read, a guy named Steve Krug, who writes a series of books. One of them is called, I think the title is Marketing is Not Rocket Surgery or Rocket Science. People can look it up. His last name is Krug. It's a really great book when it comes to website usability and design. I would say those are probably two of the best books that I've read recently. So many good marketing books, but I have to be honest with you, most of the marketing books that I read, I get about 25, 50 pages in, and then I stop because I've got the essence of the story. Like I've got their hypothesis and what they're trying to say. And I think marketing books are really hard because if you're trying to get someone to read a 200 page marketing book, it better have great stories, and great insight and be entertaining in addition to educational, because a lot of them are the same, like a lot of them seriously could be ebooks, so that's my, or even blog posts. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Not to plug my own book, but I have a book called Marketing Spark. I have a second edition that's coming out in about a month, and I would call it edutainment as opposed to anything else. So what I'm trying to do through, it's got lots of pictures and lots of worksheets and, lots of graphics. And the idea is that it's light. And I think a lot of marketing books need to take themselves less seriously because you're just trying to educate in their time at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so what are you curious about or researching right now regarding SaaS and marketing, I guess?
I guess one of the biggest things that I'm fascinated with or curious about is customer retention. And my thesis is that a lot of B2B SaaS companies have been guilty of taking their customers for granted. So we spend a lot of time trying to engage and attract and engage prospects. And then once we've got them as customers, we ignore them, other than, the monthly or quarterly newsletter or the occasional webinar or things like that. And, customers are our biggest marketing and sales assets. If we can turn them into evangelists and advocates, then we can unleash a very powerful business force that can accelerate growth and really keep the business rock solid. So I'm spending a lot of time these days looking at the different ways that we can engage customers, make them feel like their business is valued, and at the same time, educate customers, not only on what the company does, but to help them get more out of the product and solicit their feedback and advice so that they feel increasingly vested in a company and what it's doing. Because if you can get a customer to act as a marketing agent and at the same time use your product even more and get a bigger footprint, then that can be marketing that can get you through the highs and the lows of the economic landscape. So that's an area that I'm spending a lot more time trying to figure out. So what are the different types of marketing that we can do to really connect with our customers?
Yeah, excellent. All right, so just to wrap up, where can people go to find out more about Marketing Spark?
You can go to marketingspark.co. You can find out about my podcast and my book. And I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Just do a search for Mark Evans on LinkedIn and you'll probably come up my feed. I write a lot about positioning, messaging, go-to-market strategies, content marketing. Also have a newsletter that you can sign up for. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, just reach out. Just say that you listen to this podcast and I'll connect with you. And yeah, that's about it. That's where you can find everything about me. And just want to send me an email. It's mark@markevans.ca. And I'll happy to respond to any questions you might have.
Excellent. All right. Thanks for coming on the show, Mark. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Always good to talk about B2B marketing.